Hey guys, it's Audra and welcome back to my channel. I have already filmed this video once, and after I did my clip for my intro, I did the whole TBR. It took 30 minutes because I struggle, and then it didn't save. It just crashed, and so we get to do it all over again. So you'll see my intro as it was saved, which is great, and then we'll refilm TBR and the TBR jar. I'm not going to redraw because it somehow played out just right, kind of, sort of, you'll see. But yeah, let's go ahead and go into the intro. Today I'm going to share with you my May TBR. You will notice that the very large majority of the books I plan on reading in May are for the Asian Readathon hosted by Cindy over at Read with Cindy. She started this readathon last year for the first time in celebration of Asian Heritage Month, which is the entire month of May. So during the entire month of May, I plan on celebrating Asian authors and reading Own Voices books just like I did last year, but also it's even more important this year as we are seeing hate crimes and discriminatory acts against people of Asian heritage due to the coronavirus and all the misinformation that is being shared regarding that. And so I just want to send my love and my support out to those individuals being faced with hate during a time that we need more love. So let's get into the books and talk about what I plan to read for the Asian Readathon. Alright, so before we hop into the first challenge, a couple side notes. These are as broad as possible for the challenges just because of the fact that we have limited access to libraries and bookstores during this time. So Cindy really thought about the process of how we're going to get books and wanted to make them as broad as possible so everybody has an equal chance to be a part of this readathon. And then also a side challenge is to make sure that each of the challenges have a different ethnicity of author behind them, and so I have made sure to do that as well. So the first challenge is to read a book by any Asian author, and I have chosen The Storyteller's Secret by Sajal Bendadi, and this book was gifted to me by my friend Jamie because she really loved it and thought I would enjoy it as well. And it is about a woman who is a New York journalist, and she is Indian, and she has gone through her third miscarriage, and it's starting to affect her marriage, and so she kind of goes on this self-discovery quest by going back to India, spending time with her family there. She gets this story of her grandma's secret love of some kind, I think. I don't know. It sounds like it will be a multi-generational story, which I absolutely love, so I can't wait to get into this one. It is a little chunkier, it looks like, so I do have the audiobook ready to go. The second challenge is to choose a book that either has an Asian character or an Asian author that you have something in common with. And so for that one, I have chosen the theme of grief. As I've talked many times before, I have lost my brother. And so I picked one of these books that I have tried to read twice before, and I just want to get through it. And it is The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. So in this story, we have a main character whose mother has killed herself, and she thinks that her mother has, her soul has been taken into the body of a bird, and so she keeps seeing this bird. And so it's kind of dealing with the grief afterwards of this tragic loss. And then also she travels back to Taiwan to spend time with her mother's family and still sees this bird there. And so this is a Taiwanese author and a Taiwanese character. The reason that I have struggled with this book twice now, the first time was the depiction of grief and the death and the trauma behind it, because I've gone through it, was just a little bit too raw, and so I wasn't quite ready. The second time I listened to it on audio, and I got really far, but I don't remember anything. Magical realism is a struggle with mine because it's fantasy, and I am not the greatest with that, and so I can't read it with just audio. I'll have to read it paired with audio and try again, but I really do want to get through this one for this Asian Readathon. Moving on to challenge number 3, it's kind of the opposite of the last one, so you're supposed to find a book that has an Asian character or an Asian author that is different from you in some way. And so I have picked Tell Me Again How a Crush Should Feel by Sarah Farizan, and I read her book Here to Stay in January, and I absolutely loved her characters, so I immediately bought this one off a book outlet, and so I can't wait to get to her writing again. Once again, we have a story about an Iranian American teen, and this character, Layla, just happens to like girls, and so it's her story of going through high school. She doesn't have any crushes until a new girl shows up, and at first they're friends, and will something happen along the way? So this is different from my experience because I have never been in a female-female relationship, but I'm super excited to read about this one. Challenge number 4 is super fun because you're supposed to ask an Asian friend of yours or just find an Asian booktuber and get a book that they recommend. And so I contacted one of my friends that I met last year through First to Sense, which is a young cancer survivors adventure group, I guess. We outlive it together, and so we went whitewater kayaking in Oregon, which is terrifying, but I met one of the most amazing human beings named Vincent. So he shared with me his favorite book ever, even though it's not by an Asian author. I'm still going to read it, and that is The Alchemist. This is one I've had for a long time, and that it's been recommended to me multiple times, but I've just never gotten to it. It's super short. I know really nothing about it. I think it's like a journey story. We'll see. I'm excited to read it. So thank you, Vincent, for sharing this one with me. The 5th and final challenge for this readathon is actually optional, and that is to read Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng in the first 2 weeks of the month, and then the last 2 weeks of the month they're going to do a watch-along of the Hulu show. And so I've already read Little Fires Everywhere, but I am going to reread it just because I don't have the best retention, and I want to do a better comparison between the show because I have not watched the show yet. So I'm super excited to do that. I have the audiobook ready to go because I believe the physical copy is on my desk at work and we're not allowed to go there. So yeah, I can't wait to dig back into this story. Before I share with you books that I plan to read for some book clubs and then the TBR jar, I do want to mention a few more books that I'm hoping to get throughout the month of May that are own voices Asian authors. The first one being A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. The next book I'm hoping to read is The House of Hidden Mothers by Mira Sayal. Last year, during this readathon, I read There's Something About Sweetie by Sandhya Menon, and I fell in love with these characters. Now, I already had the other books on my TBR that I wanted to read. I just didn't know that they were in the same family and friend group, and so I should have read them first. And so I would like to go back and read When Dimple Met Rishi, and then From Twinkle with Love, and then reread Something About Sweetie because, so good. Cannot wait to get to those. There are a couple book clubs that I will be reading with this month, and the first one is a new one that it was just a friend from grade school posted on Facebook that she wanted to kind of switch things up during this time and do a Zoom book club. And so it's with a whole bunch of people I don't know other than her, and so I'm excited to meet people that way. And we've actually chosen a book that goes perfectly with this readathon, and that is Internment by Samira Ahmed. And this one I've already read, and so I will be rereading it just because I remember it being like a gut punch. So this book is supposed to be kind of like a dystopian novel, but it really doesn't seem that far off as we have seen lately with how we are treating people who are different from us. And so this is based on how people have been treated in the past in internment camps just because they are different, and how it could look in the future based off of the way that we treat Muslims in our country. And so yeah, it's a hard hitter, and I'm excited to read it again and to talk about it with these new people that I have never met before, so that'll be fun. The next book club that I'm going to be reading along with is actually from Teacher Graham, and that is led by That Awkward Teacher and one of her friends. They have selected Wild Blue Wonder by Carly Zoroziak. I do know this is not written by an Asian author. I know nothing else about it because the summary is so very broad. And it just says that there are 2 monsters in the story. One of them is me. There may be magical realism. It kind of sounds like. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. And then moving into the TBR jar, like I said, we are not going to redo it, but I will show you what I picked. The first one I picked, made my stomach drop because I picked The Gene, which is this giant behemoth of a nonfiction science read. My immediate reaction was to run and to put it back and to skip TBR jar, but I figured out that it is written by an Indian author, Siddhartha Mukherjee, and so I will be reading it. I plan on reading half of it as a goal for May, just because I know there's no way I'm getting through this whole thing. And it is the history of genes and the biology of it, and he is a biologist, a doctor, an oncologist, so there is going to be some cancer talk in here, so that makes me a little bit nervous, but I think it's also kind of along the lines of like his family genetics and some of that too, so I'm excited to get into it. I'm just kind of scared. The second book I picked also goes along perfectly with this readathon, and that is Love, Hate, and Other Filters. It is by Samira Ahmed, which I said I'm already reading internment, so that goes along as well. So this is a story about a girl named Maya, and she's getting ready to go to film school, living normal life, and then she is surrounded by Islamophobia because somewhere else in the United States, a man has created a terrorist attack of some sorts, and that he shares her last name. There's no relation, and so people are just treating her poorly. So this is also going to be a hard read, which I think she does well. And it is not on audio, so I will definitely have to read this in physical format, but I am excited to finally get to this one because I've had it since it came out, so I'm thankful that the TBR jar picked it. The third and final book was supposed to be A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, but I read that last month, so I had to pull from the jar again. And even though the last two books fell in with the Asian authors, this did not, and that is The Girl in the Blue Coat. And that is this story, which is a YA historical fiction about Poland in 1943. We have a girl who is getting things to people kind of on a black market type of thing, and then somebody comes up to her asking if she can find a girl that has been missing from a secret room. So I'm assuming that would be a young Jewish girl, and so I'm not sure who's going to be the girl in the blue coat, but again, I'm excited to read this. I've had it a while, and we'll see how it goes. I am well aware that that is far too many books for me to get through in 1 month, but I will do my best. I have some options that I'm excited about, and I'm definitely going to be just prioritizing these books for the Asian Readathon first, along with Little Fires Everywhere, and then kind of go from there and see what happens. So, as always, I would love to hear what you plan on reading this month, especially if you are joining in on the Asian Readathon. If you have read any of these books, let me know your thoughts and which ones you think I should move up my priority list. Until next time, bye guys.